Hello, welcome to another edition of your flagship program, Telecom Weekly. The program aims at educating, informing and updating you with the latest trends, issues, news and developments in the telecom and ICT sectors, particularly in Nigeria. Telecom Weekly is sponsored by the telecom regulator, the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC. Here at NCC, we strive to put smiles on the faces of telecom consumers by ensuring quality of service. Once again, welcome. My name is Oluwatobi Enito. In this edition, NCC hosts the 92nd edition of Telecom Consumer Parliament TCP. Also in this edition, West Africa Telecommunications Regulators Assembly WATRA visit NCC headquarters in Abuja. Plus, Telecom subscribers recount experiences with call centers. As you can see, today's program is consumer-centric and promises to be educative. We urge you to please stay with us.
On NCC Telecom Weekly, we bring you innovations, trends, policies and stakeholders, redefining all sectors of our economy today. Here, you'll see the actors, policymakers and creativity that will shape your mind and business for growth in line with today's reality. Join us every Friday, 5 p.m. on NTN Network and on radio, FRCN Network on Fridays, 8 p.m. NCC, Connecting Nigeria.
In its quest to always interface with consumers, the Nigerian Communications Commission NCC has held the 92nd edition of Telecom Consumer Parliament TCP in the Nigeria Commercial Nerve Center, Lagos. At the event, issues concerning the plight of people living with disabilities in the society took center stage.
Professor Umar Garuba Dambata, the Executive Vice Chairman and the Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Communications Commission NCC, has again emphasized the need for telecommunications industry to address the challenges of persons with disabilities. The Executive Vice Chairman made the call at the 92nd edition of the Telecom Consumer Parliament TCP with regulators, operators and consumers in attendance to address incessant complaints and concerns of persons with disabilities. Professor Dambata reiterated that NCC is committed to addressing the plight of persons with disabilities so that they are not left out in the digital transformation taking place in the world. He further requested that the telecom services must be inclusive to all, irrespective of who they are.
It is very, very important for me to attend the 92nd edition of the Telecom's Consumer Parliament taking place here in the Radisson Blu Hotel in Lagos. It's because of the assessment we conducted about the infactable nature of the Telecom Consumer Parliament that convinced us to continue to drive this important initiative of the Commission, to engage critical members of the public and hear their observations, their suggestions, and, useful recommendations on how we can be able to even impact more on the multitude of consumers that subscribe to telecommunication services in the country.
Held at the Radisson Blu Hotel Lagos, the 92nd edition of TCP focused on the challenges of the physically impaired and the need for telecom services to be accessible to those with disabilities and the elderly.
There is no better opportunity for us than to also listen to an important segment of the Nigerian population. That segment which consists of persons with disability and the elderly, with a view to establishing and coming up with measures that can be deployed to protect them and empower them, in a manner that will make them avail telecommunication services just like normal Nigerians, access those services.
Speaking on the theme of the event, which is consumer protection and people living with disabilities and the elderly, Mr. El Kazim Umar, Director, Consumer Affairs Bureau, noted that the rise in technology should be the reason to address challenges affecting the needy. According to Mr. Umaru, who was represented by Mr. Banji Ojo, Head of Consumer Protection and Advocacy, NCC, the program is to make telecom accessible to the physically impaired and create awareness for the physically challenged and come up with the right steps to address them.
We must ensure that all Nigerians, regardless of their physical abilities, have robust access to communication services. Globally, best communication standards dictate that telecom services must be accessible and user-friendly to all consumers. These include those with disabilities, we have some of them in our midst today, the elderly, we have some of them here, and other vulnerable groups. It is crucial that Nigerians adhere to these global best practices to ensure that we do not leave anyone behind in the digital age.
Mr. Kamal Tamawa, Director Spectrum and Industry Service, GSMA, stated that more than 8 out of every 10 of the 1 billion people that experience significant disabilities globally live in developing countries. He said there's need to address the concerns of persons with disabilities and to implement the outcome of the TCP.
The vast majority of these persons with disabilities find themselves marginalized in society without access to the same sort of opportunities as people that live without any disability. It's very important for us to put into context as well the nature in which we view disability, because I think this is also important in that it makes a difference as to the kind of conversations that we have. People with disabilities are underserved, and the perspective that we take as to what exactly a disability means helps to shape the kind of responses that we have in terms of including them in society.
Happy that NCC is already, laying that good example in terms of quota in employment, for people with disability. And I think that as when the new administration is coming up, we're also going to be seeing that spirit of inclusion in terms of appointments into, positions and offices as the new administration kicks off, to really create that sense of belonging. Because I must tell you that people with disability were actively involved in this electoral process.
The 92nd TCP had in attendance the management staff of the NCC, representatives of various telecom providers and other stakeholders.
Members of the Technical Committee for the Review and Validation of the West Africa Telecommunications Regulators Assembly WATRA Constitution were recently at the NCC headquarters in Abuja. The visit was a follow-up to the one made by the new WATRA Executive Committee, which emerged at the 20th Annual General Meeting held in Bamako, Mali. Discussions centered on how the region should leverage on telecom to fast-track development.
The growth and development of the African continent is largely dependent on the dynamism of the telecom industry, owing to its significance in driving the activities of other sectors of the economy. This is the position of Professor Umar Garuba Dambata, Executive Vice Chairman, Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC), when he played host to members of the Technical Committee for the Review and Validation of West Africa Telecommunications Regulators Assembly (WATRA) Constitution at the NCC's headquarters in Abuja. The NCC boss was represented by Dr. Ikechukwu Adinde, Director, Special Duties Department of the Commission.
Through this kind of collaboration and partnership and cooperation among member states in ECOWAS, they are able to come up with a common front, strategic action plans for helping the different countries within the region to achieve their set economic and developmental goals in the area of telecommunications because of its importance in driving the activities of other sectors of their different economies. So this body is key, and by the review of this constitution, it is expected that WATRA will become stronger. It will focus more on its mission and vision and its objectives, and become much more relevant in the sub-region.
Professor Dambata also touched on the essence of the meeting with the WATRA Technical Committee members.
By coming together, WATRA is leveraging on the strength of the member states, the different member states, to catalyze development faster than it would have happened within the sub-region. So different areas that relate to telecommunications development across the country, we have a uniform approach to it, a strategic action plan in terms of both long and short-term goals that would need to be achieved to make sure that across the West African sub-region that there is seamless telecommunication services in such a way that each country and every country within the region can actually benefit from telecommunications development to grow their economy.
Earlier, leader of the five-man delegation who spoke in French, Mr. Lamine Ahamadou Dali, Director Regulatory and International Affairs, AMRTP Mali, and Chairman Technical Committee for the Review of WATRA Constitution, had briefed the NCC on the achievements so far recorded by the committee. He spoke through an interpreter, Mr. Rufus Samuel, Principal Manager, Partnership, WATRA Secretariat.
The first thing I want to say is that the workshop was held in a successful manner. All the points in the review was accepted in a consensus. There were no reservations. And secondly, our hope is that this draft document will be presented to the General Assembly and adopted without ease.
Recall that the new WATRA Executive Committee, which emerged at the 20th Annual General Meeting held in Bamako, Mali, had previously paid a similar visit to the Commission's headquarters and was received by the nation's chief telecom regulator, Professor Umar Garuba Dambata. In his address at the occasion, the EVC assured the visiting team of the Commission's readiness to provide required assistance in the efficient execution of their task.
To Nigeria in particular and to the Commission, to Nigeria in general and to the NCC, the Nigerian Communications Commission in particular. And we look forward to this visit. We know we still have a role to play in taking WATRA to greater heights. And I would like to assure you of our readiness to assist in whatever way we can.
The NCC boss also used the medium to emphasize the need for regional cooperation and integration among ECOWAS member states to further enhance the telecom industry within the sub-region.
As you are aware, Mr. Chairman, the WATRA is made up of 16 member states within the West African sub-region, and Nigeria is an important member of WATRA, but despite our size in terms of population, all of us have the same boat. No member state is allowed to usurp the sovereignty of another member state. When it comes to voting, we all exercise our franchise on the strength of our vote, which is one.
High points of the final phase of the meeting between the NCC and the WATRA Technical Committee was the presentation of souvenir to the visitors who afterward applauded the Commission for the quality leadership it has provided WATRA over the years. The West African Telecommunications Regulators Assembly, WATRA, is a consultative and collaborative body of telecommunications regulators in the West African sub-region. The organization was established in November 2002 with headquarters in Abuja. WATRA is made up of 16 independent national regulatory authorities established to promote an efficient, adequate and cost-effective ICT infrastructure and services in the West African sub-region, while fostering rapid telecommunications development across member states.
You can always be a part of this program by joining us via our multiple social media platforms. For inquiries on this program, you can send a mail to telecomweekly@ncc.gov.ng. For further details about the activities of the Commission, visit www.ncc.gov.ng.
most common activities that consume internet data. Download and streaming of videos in high resolution. Emails with large file attachments. Software package updates. Always on social media feeds and notifications. Online games. Remote security cameras. Data sent via virtual private networks, VPN.
Part of the mandate of the Nigerian Communications Commission is to ensure consumer satisfaction. Thus, the Commission has enforced the establishment of call centers by mobile network operators to enable telecom consumers lay their complaints with a view to resolving issues raised. In this special report, our correspondent takes a look at what informed the institution of the centers and how the centers have been of benefit to telecom consumers.
Consumer protection is at the heart of the regulatory activity of the Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC). This underscores the Commission's unrelenting efforts to ensure that consumers get value for money spent through effective service delivery. The high premium the telecom regulator placed on consumer protection birthed its Consumer Protection and Advocacy Unit, which has the primary responsibility of managing consumers' complaints. On assumption of office as the Executive Vice Chairman and CEO of NCC in 2015, one issue that engaged the attention of Professor Umar Garuba Dambata was how to better the lot of telecom consumer whom he regarded as the number one stakeholder in the telecom industry. Consequently, the NCC's boss came up with an 8-point agenda now revised to a 5-point agenda, one of which is to protect and empower consumers from unfair practices through the provision of information and education required to make informed choices in the use of telecommunications services. In the thinking of Professor Dambata, without the consumers, there can be business for the operators and service providers. This apparently gave prominence to the NCC's Consumer Bill of Rights, where the consumer is bestowed with the right to timely redress by service providers without harassment. It's on the strength of this that Telecom Weekly took the issue to the doorsteps of the subscribers to find out how seriously the service providers treat matters relating to consumer complaints at their various call centers set up for that purpose.
When they take your call, they usually attend to you, except the ones they cannot handle at that moment. They will tell you to call back at this time, or they usually attend to you when they take your calls. Yes.
Sometimes you call, they don't speak, and sometimes it can be so frustrating.
One of the funny experiences I've had with them is there was a time I called and it's like the network was not really okay, and the person at the other end dropped the call. So I was surprised, like, why will you do that? So I have to call again.
So far so good. Lately they don't waste time to pick the call. They pick the call immediately. It doesn't take up to like 2 minutes before they pick the call. So I think it's been impressive.
Notwithstanding, consumers of telecom products and services have at different times had cause to express displeasure over the prevalence of inoperative call centers or nonchalant attitude towards complaints by some service providers, resulting in poor redress of these complaints. To that extent, how effective are the telecom operators' call centers in the present day, and what is the average waiting time in resolving consumer complaints?
Before, I can say, like last year or 2 years ago, I use MTN. When I call them, it takes like, I don't know, like 30 minutes or an hour before you can get them. Then after getting them, they say they want to transfer you to the customer care, whatever. Before it will cut.
Most of the time, they solve the problem almost immediately. They ask you your name and where you're calling from, confirm 1 or 2 things. And once that is confirmed, you lay your complaint, and when you do that, they attend to you immediately. They explain it.
Then I observed that they respond quicker than like a year or 2 years ago. I think there's a little improvement.
Going forward, what does the average subscriber think should be done to ensure better management of complaints by service providers?
The area they can improve on it, I would say, for me, the data. Sometimes when they give me bonus, how to use it, it's just frustrating. They have mega Ds. I appreciate them for that, but sometimes the network is so slow, like it's just frustrating.
The area I would advise, they should, improve. They should just make it, flexible, accessible. If I'm having any challenges on my, network, I should be able to just, call and somebody picks straight away. I don't need all these, if you want to Hausa, Igbo, whatever, you don't need that. Take me directly. I say I'm calling somebody straight away, and I'll be able to leave my complaint. Then the person, I think they need to employ more staff.
Times when you call them, except at night, if you call them in the daytime, it will take up to 10, 15, 20 minutes. At times they will not even, you get tired and you have to end your call. But at night, they will, like 5 minutes, you will reach the customer care attendant and you air your view or you say what you want to say.
For Telecom subscribers who are dissatisfied with the services rendered by any of the service providers, do you know that you have the right to seek redress? The following are the procedures put in place by the NCC to file a complaint. Step 1. Contact your service provider to lodge a complaint either via the customer care helpline or by physically visiting any of the customer care centers. Step 2. Ensure you obtain a complaint ticket number from them. Step 3. If you're not satisfied with your resolution, seek redress with the Commission via the following channels: NCC 622 toll-free contact center, NCC consumer portal, NCC's Facebook account, NCC Twitter account, NCC Instagram account. Recall that the NCC recently launched its Telecom Consumer Assistant Resolution and Inquiries Telcare Desk at Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, to mark the 2023 World Consumer Rights Day, an initiative that further demonstrated the importance the Commission attaches to issues of consumer affairs. It is therefore incumbent on the service providers to adhere strictly to their obligations to consumers, a greater part of which is the timely resolution of disputes using the instrumentality of their call centers across the country.
How to maximize your mobile data to avoid wastage. Disable mobile data when it is not needed. Use data compression in your browsers. Deactivate all cloud storage except where necessary. Reduce streaming quality from websites such as YouTube, Netflix, and Hulu. Turn off automatic updates on your devices. Set up data usage alerts on your devices. Do not interrupt downloads in between sessions. Close all apps when they are not in use. Control the time you spend on social media feeds. And send large files when connected via Wi-Fi only.
Do you have any issue bothering you in the course of using the telecom services? Well, the mobile network operators call centers are available 24/7. Ensure you receive ticket numbers for complaint laid. For unresolved complaints by operator, just dial 622, the NCC toll-free line, and you will be attended to. It is on this note we call it a day on this week's episode of Telecom Weekly. Before we go, don't forget you can always be a part of this program by joining us via our multiple social media platforms. For inquiries on this program, you can send a mail to telecomweekly@ncc.gov.ng. For further details on the activities of the Commission, visit www.ncc.gov.ng. The program Telecom Weekly is an initiative of the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC. Until we come your way again next week, I am Oluwatobi Eniton, saying bye for now.